Hi guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge. This is still the first week in January when I'm recording this. This is the most expensive knife I have reviewed on this channel. It sells at 259 US shekels at Real Steel Knives. I don't know of any other store that has it quite yet, but I will triple check before I post this video. Look in the description below for any links where you might be able to buy this. I got mine directly from Real Steel. They do allow reviewers to get a discount, and so I did not have to pay $259. Thank you very much, Real Steel Knives. I still am totally dedicated to giving a completely objective review, but I will say this is a very nice knife, and there's not very many negatives on here, but there are a couple. And they're not that significant, but we'll see those in just a little while. And if you do want to see those, then stick around for the full review of the Real Steel Megalodon Eclipse for 2018. So guys, I think this might be the first English video review of this knife. This is the knife that I cut myself with. The knife didn't cut me. I cut me. I was being stupid. I sliced like this across my finger. Now I've just got a tiny little section left there. The Megalodon for 2018, the Megalodon Eclipse, has got a significant change in the blade. This swedge up here, or they call it a false edge, is the major change. It's a saber grind instead of a full flat grind. The previous ones are a full flat grind. There's the 2017 version of the Megalodon. It's the same price as this one. It's all titanium on the handle instead of carbon fiber and titanium. And then they've got a budget version that's $74.50 US. Retailing at Real Steel, and you can get it at other places as well. And I have a video on that one. I got one with orange G10 handle scales and 14C28N Sandvik steel blade. And the steel on this is Bowler's M390 steel. Edge retention on that steel is very good. Hardness is quite high, 60 to 62 Rockwell hardness. A little bit harder to sharpen than some steels. It's a little bit harder than LMAX, but not by a lot. And, it's a good steel for this knife. I really, really like it. And it helps contribute a fair bit to the cost of the knife. It's definitely a flipper. That's the only option for deploying the blade, although they could have easily made thumb studs there. They could have done a thumb stud version, and some people would like that, but most guys really like flippers. So there you go. Here's a flipper knife. The carbon fiber is very light. It's done very well. The inside of it is milled out to reduce the weight even more. I'll show you a picture of that right now. You saw in that picture, they didn't mill out the titanium at all. I think that's because if they would have milled out the titanium as well as that, then it would become way too forward heavy with the blade. Right now, the balance point is right between those two screws that you see for the insert. The blade insert, so that you have steel touching the steel blade. I'll show you pictures of that in a little while. It's not right now. So let's talk about all the dimensions, and then we'll get on with some other things. Cutting edge, 9.86 centimeters, which is 3.88 inches. Blade length is 10 centimeters. That's 3.93 inches. The steel, the blade thickness here is 3.5 millimeters. That's 0.14 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind is beautiful. It's 0.43 millimeters. That's 0.0165 inches. And so 0.4 is a really good thickness for a steel that's a good premium steel. 8CR13, I prefer it to be a little bit thicker because it's not as strong. It's not as durable of a steel, but this stuff, I like it nice and thin like that. Great job, guys, at Real Steel. The handle length is 12.3 centimeters, which is 4.83 inches. And then the grip area here is 10.5 centimeters, which is 4.13 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, is 12.5 millimeters, 1.25 centimeters, which is just under half an inch. The total length of this knife with the blade deployed is 22.2 centimeters, which is just shy of 8 3/4 of an inch. It weighs 102 grams, which is 3.6 ounces. So this carbon fiber helped to lighten it up. Taking this back swedge off of the steel on the blade, I think helped lighten it up a little bit too. The 2017 version of the Megalodon is 4.3 ounces, and this is 3.6. So that's 0.7, so way over half, almost over 2/3 of an ounce less. That's really good. The G10 version is a fair bit heavier. That's 133. That one's 131 grams, which is 4.6 ounces. Still under 5, which is really nice for a big blade like this. 8 3/4 inches. Like, this is a big knife. Almost 4 inches of blade right here, 3.93. You know, you're talking about a big knife. My hands are large, bordering on extra large, and it just feels really good in here. Extra large hands still have room to grow in there. And yet people with smaller hands aren't going to find this thing too big because it's just made really well. Oh, I forgot to give this dimension here. I'll go get that information for you right now. I tend to call this dimension the depth. So the depth of the handle is, you can see that right around an inch, of course. And by the way, the blade is just over 7/8. And that's just under 7/8 right there. So that's, you know, a good size blade. So that's the dimensions of this knife. M390. I just have to talk about it a little bit more. They did a really good job with this. I really like the sanding that they did there. See those lines that are in the steel? Of course, they're sanding down like this, and same thing up there. Really nice edge. Of course, it's a fingerprint magnet, but I am glad it's not a mirror edge. I really don't like mirror edges on blades, mirror surfaces. My fingers are just a little bit too oily, and I get a mess of them so very quick. And this doesn't look terribly bad when my fingerprints get on it. I like that. The flipper has got just a tiny bit of jimping right there that you can see. Just enough for when the blade is closed, your fingers get up here, and it just takes a little bit of pressure and it goes flying out. Once you overcome the detent, it just flies out. By the way, the detent ball is ceramic. At least it looks like ceramic. So you can just do the light switch method. And of course, you can certainly do the push down method until it overcomes and then it goes flying out. But the light switch method works a little bit better because the pivot point the contact point is ahead of the pivot point right here. So if it was right on or slightly behind the pivot point, then the push down method would be great for it. But since it's a little bit forward, just the light switch method, just great. Talking about little jimping, see the frame lock arm right there? There's 6 little cutouts in there milled out. That gives your thumb just a little bit extra purchase when you go to unlock the blade. Very, very easy to do. That's the right hand. Left hand, I have no problem either. Of course, you have to turn it to hold it in your hand then. Let's talk about that lock bar insert now. Take a look at the still picture. Isn't that great? So the shape of it is like, it's cut out like a puzzle, which means it just fits in there perfectly, which means it can't wiggle back and forth. And then you see that ceramic ball in there. And then, of course, you have the locking surface that locks and mates up with the knife. And look at that lockup. That is exactly what you want a brand new knife to look like at lockup. Perfect. Lots of room for wear. Enough engagement to be totally secure. There's no risk of early lockup so that it'll fail easily. So the lockup is perfect. There's no blade play, back and forth, up and down. It's rock solid. You close the knife and alignment is perfect, right in the middle, exactly where it should be. And this open pillar construction is quite cool. They've got an hourglass shape to them. I know with the light, it almost looks like it gets thin and then thick in the middle, then thin again, but no, it doesn't. It's just an hourglass shape. And then this pin right here in the middle, if I turn it like this, you can see, hopefully, that it's hollow. And you can feed your paracord through there if you want a lanyard. Really good thing. These screws are flush to the surface. The screw for the thumb stud, sticks out a little bit. It's got a bit of a head there. And then the screw for the pivot screw is the same way. It comes out just a little bit. Very nice. The other side is shaped exactly the same, but without a screw hole. That's because that pillar, the post in there is a D shape, so it locks. It's not free spinning, and all the knives should be. That's a good thing. Now let's talk about this lock arm. It's cut out using wire EDM technology, and I really like a few things about that. So let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about the pocket clip. But to talk about this, let's take the pocket clip off. Check that out. That S curve in there. And then let's get the light right back there. There you go. And then it's cut out, and then there's a bit of a circle there. And that's to relieve any stress points. And then I really like this cutout so that it turns it into a spring. And let's see if we can get a nice close-up shot of this. Look at the shape of that cutout. So cool. I like that an awful lot. And this is like a bead blasted surface on this titanium, a very fine surface on it. And you've got these marks here. And why are there these marks on here? Well, that's the pocket clip. And this is the first, or this is the biggest negative that I have with this knife. It's not a very big negative, but it's the biggest one. The insert here for where the pocket clip goes into, it doesn't lock in super well, not like the lock bar insert on the other side. It just sort of fits in there, and then it's got all this freedom to move back and forth. I'm exaggerating a bit, but it moves back and forth a fair bit. And that movement back and forth, even when it's tightened down, there's some slight movement when you got it in your pocket and you're pushing on the side. That's what's rubbing the titanium right there. I wish they would make a different way for this to lock into place, something that's a little more solid so that it won't pivot at all. There's two ways to do that. Either make the tolerances much tighter or use two screws. Two screws would be nice. They could use smaller screws, something that looks like this. It could be, nice, almost flush, but not quite flush because it's not that thick. And if they do a 2019 version of the Megalodon, the 2017 version sold like hotcakes, and that's why they wanted to do a 2018 version, which you see here. So if this one sells like hotcakes and they decide to do a third, guys at Real Steel, fix this pocket clip. There's a lot of people that would like to have a right and left pocket clip. Lefties are about 10% of the population, maybe a little bit more in the knife hobbyists. I don't know. There you go. I'm talking about that more than it deserves. It's not that big a deal, but it's the most significant issue that I have with this knife. I want to talk a little bit about this screw here, the pivot screw. Take a look at this close-up picture and tell me what you see. Actually, two pictures. There is a small bit of, it feels like a rubbery silicone in there, and it's a washer. So when I tighten this down, that's what holds it in place. It doesn't need a chemical thread locker, one of those liquid thread lockers. That washer, since it's sort of rubbery, is what holds this in place so that even though it goes through the vibration of bang, the lock, you open it and it locks into place and it hits that pin and you got a fine vibration through here, but it's a significant one. That's why people use thread locking liquid in these pivots, but I really like what they've done here. I've seen some other knives by Real Steel that have that feature on it, but I've never really spoken about it. That's a really good thing. Chamfering on the handle all over the place makes it very comfortable in hand. This is not a straight back knife, by the way. It's a slightly upswept blade. Hopefully I can show you using this ruler. See, it's touching right at the tip, right where it says 25. It's touching the handle there. And over where it says 15, it's touching the handle, but there's space in the middle where my thumb is. So it's a little bit down and then up on either end. So it is technically an upswept blade, but in reality, it's very much more like just a straight back blade. Got a nice little sharpener's choil here so that the plunge line there doesn't get affected when you go to sharpen it. The only writing on this side of the knife is right here, and that's the RSK logo. It's really hard to see. I'll give you a close-up shot of that through my microscope, USB microscope. But that's the only thing that you see on this side, and I love that. I like nice, clean looks on the knives. On the other side, they've got a little bit of writing, real steel on the pocket clip, designed by Carson H255 right there. And right here it says M390. As little writing as possible, I like that. Very nice and clean look. I forgot to mention another feature in there. Part of that insert, I should show you a picture of it again, is the over travel stop. So you can only push it so far. And that's it. There's a little bit of a milled out hole in the titanium, and that's as far as it can go. And that's great. I like that. Good job, guys. Over travel stop without being in your face. I think this is a very good knife. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Happy Sunday, my friends. Those of you who are watching this on the day that it comes out. This is probably going to be the most expensive knife that I'm reviewing all year. Remember, guys, always cut towards your chum, not your finger and not your thumb.